Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're here with Healthy with Nicole from Instagram. Welcome, Nicole. My name,
Hi,
and I'm from Grassfed Girl. Thanks for joining us, Nicole.
thanks for having me.
It's really exciting to have you because we want to hear all about your health journey and how the carnivore diet has helped you. So we're so excited today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. I love telling it.
Well, it's so refreshing to hear from somebody who's dealt with a lot of digestive problems and come through the other side and kind of bucked conventional wisdom and it looks so healthy while they do it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a work in progress always, but it's worth the journey. And as the dietary change is always makes a big difference, but it's also really fun. And I not only am I better and healthier, but I really enjoy it. I love the way I'm eating and living now. And so, yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, I love all the stuff you're into, like minimalism, exercise, essential oils. I mean, we have a lot in common. So, now I did not start out with uh, the same kind of health troubles as you. I mean, I think they all are related, of course. Um,
For
but so
sure.
tell us a little bit of your story of why, how you started feeling ill in the first place and, what led you down this path of eating a meat-based diet.
Sure. Well, let's see. I'll start with my many years as a vegan. I was always into health and really just wanted to do what I, felt was the optimal things for my health. So I was a fitness trainer. I was into a lot of athletics. I was a runner, did marathons. I did a lot of fitness training and just really always loved being I guess on top of my game in terms of health and wellness. And so when I was about 18, I adopted the vegan diet. And I did it mostly because I didn't have a health condition per se. I just wanted to be healthier. And I thought that that was the way to do that. So I started a pretty much vegan diet. And for many years, I actually did feel fine. I actually felt great. And I loved eating what I ate. And I did eat a lot of, early on in my vegan years, I ate a lot of grains and sprouted nuts and seeds and beans and all that stuff. I did a tremendous amount of cooking. And so I spent a lot of time with food. And then I did a raw vegan diet for about a year because I was feeling like my energy was kind of low. And so I thought, well, I must just need to take it to the next level. So I did, the whole raw vegan thing, which again, for a while I felt great. And then some years into it, I started having health problems. And I guess it was maybe, I'd say, um, 10 years or something into it. I can't tell you exactly, but basically I started having extreme fatigue and I was very cold, had hair falling out. I had hormone imbalance issues. I did have a lot of anxiety and I'll say some depression, although at the time I didn't think I'd had that. Um, and I had some fertility issues. I had endometriosis. And when I had my blood work done and my hormones were just not even present. So basically, just with all the health conditions I was having, I thought that I was doing something wrong in my diet by not doing it, not being vegan enough or whatever it was. So I kind of tried to pursue the vegan, raw vegan. And the further down the rabbit hole I went, the sicker I got. And so eventually I was diagnosed with fast forwarding quite a bit here. So in I think it was October of 2012, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And mind you, I had already had a lot of digestive problems over the years, a lot. Um, and I'd also become really intolerant to any kind of sugar. which brings me to like a whole new thing that I've been learning about. So I have a feeling I may have induced some diabetes into my world and trashed my pancreas from eating raw fruits and smoothies and just by huge quantities of that. And but nonetheless, I couldn't tolerate any kind of sugar. I'd feel immediately sick, even fruit. And so I kind of, when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, I had been through, I had a death in the family and a divorce, and I relocated and job change. So such a pretty huge things happened in my life. And we do know that autoimmune disease is often triggered. It's like you set the stage for it, and I did with my diet. But then it's often ignited by a lot of stress. And so that's, I think, what happened in my case. I set the stage for it by depleting my body, extreme depletion of nutrients in my body. And my hormones were just not able to keep up. And I also had sugar imbalance. So I had insulin problems. And I mean, the list goes on, with the digestive damage that I did to my body with all the fiber. I mean, at that time, I thought we're supposed to eat a lot of fiber. It's good for your gut. But little did I know it was destroying my gut. And to the point that, I was bleeding, like having bleeding stools. It was horrendous. And I had a lot of bloating and pain. And at this time, I was, you'd look at me and think I was super healthy. I was very lean. I just put a picture up today on my Instagram about this because I was actually bikini modeling. I looked like a very healthy person, and I was dying on the inside. I was miserable, unhappy. The anxiety and depression was there, and I was bleeding every day. So something was not right, and what I was doing was not working. Maybe it looked like it, but I was also really starving myself. I was heavy into the diet culture. I was doing 2 workouts a day, pretty intense, and eating probably less than 1,000 calories. So that's how I was able to maintain such low body fat. And my body weight hasn't really changed a whole lot. I think in those pictures that compare side to side, I was maybe like 112 or something like that. And then in the comparative picture, like 117 or something. So I did gain a couple pounds, but you don't really notice it a whole lot in the photos. And so I realized that I had to do something, and I had tried a lot of different things. I had tried pretty much every diet out there for curing colitis. And so this started with moving away from the vegan diet. I implemented like some eggs and fish. And then I tried like the standard, I think the specific carbohydrate diet, where you do still eat a bunch of carbs. And so there's some thoughts there about the kind of fibers you take in. And I got a little bit of results through that, but not a ton. And then I did a ketogenic diet, and I got a little bit better results with that. I did not take medications during this time. I was determined to fix it, and the medications didn't help that much, and they're really dangerous. They're really bad on your liver. So I just didn't want to go that determined to fix it. And I got a little headway with the keto. And I think it was because I did, eliminate the, lectins to a better degree. So like I, eliminated legumes and was pretty much, anything that has carbohydrate to it, fruits and things like that, those were gone. So I was mostly relying on fats and proteins, and I did still eat a lot of leafy greens. I had a big garden at the time, and so I was growing all my own organic stuff here in Southern California. It was easy. So I got a little bit better, but I would still have some flare-ups. And flare-up for colitis is pain in your intestines, bloating, bleeding, the whole bit. So I came across 2 things. Amber O'Hearn curing her basically mental illness with carnivore diet. And I thought that was crazy. But the reason it resonated with me was because I knew that I had gut damage. And I knew that mental health is correlated with gut damage. So it kind of was like, there's something here. And then I found Sean Baker. And I just was blown away by everything that I saw. And I read all the Meat Heals. And I didn't see a whole lot of people with colitis yet on there. So I was just searching. And I just decided, I'm just going to try it. And so I did. I figured I'd do 30 days. In 30 days, I did not heal my colitis, but I felt way better. I didn't have the pain, and I could tell the inflammation in my body was going down. I had eliminated things like nuts, that I was eating a ton of almond flour until I really learned the reality about, it was like a daily thing, baking things made of almond flour and mug cake and all that great stuff that we have fun with on keto. I couldn't tolerate it, but I didn't know that until I took it all out. So after a month, I just decided I was just going to keep going because I really liked it and I felt great and I was getting leaner. And I was like, this is probably a good sign, just based on how I feel. I am a big believer in your body will let you know how you're doing. If you're able to tap into it and pay attention to how you feel, I think you get a lot of information from that, as opposed to just lab tests and things like that, which are great information too, but I rather go by what I'm seeing in my results. And I was getting great results. So I kept going, and I started off eating a lot of different variety of food, and then I kind of zeroed in on just meat for a while, beef. And I got better and better and better. And then within 4 months, my symptoms had completely disappeared. And that was a year and a half ago. And I have been symptom-free since then, and also plant-free. So I don't, the only plants that I use are occasional plant medicine or essential oils. I think they're great in that way, and aromatically awesome, because you can not even touch the oils and they can, your limbic system. But anyway, that was a year and a half ago, and I've learned a lot coming through. It's been a really interesting journey. Learned a lot about autoimmune disease and how it responds to this. So now that's kind of all I talk about. Is there's a million ways to cut it. Everybody that does carnivore does it a little bit different. And some people are really strict. They just do beef and water, and that's it. And that's fine. And then some people kind of mix it up and they add different things. Some people add organ meat. Some people have fish. Some people have a different animal each day. And so I just kind of had to figure out what worked for me. And so for the last year and a half, I've been pretty much just doing meat and eggs. And I try to do mostly grass-fed beef. And I do eat a lot of, I like lamb, and then a little bit of fish. And I don't really eat much chicken or pork. And because of the omega-6 fatty acids that, you're higher in those. So I tend to focus on grass-fed beef and lamb, which is naturally grass-fed, and bison. So I feel like that definitely has helped. And I also just do it for environmental reasons, which is one of the reasons I became a vegan, because, I really felt it was the best thing for the environment, which I know now is to be totally not true. But so I do it for my health and for the environment and for autoimmune disease. And, people don't want to believe that you can be cured, because we've been taught to believe, oh, you'll always have it. I was always told that you can't cure it. And it doesn't matter what you eat. Just keep taking these drugs.
Wow.
And I just don't buy it. I'm proof. I'm living proof that that's not true. So the diet, I think, is a huge piece of the puzzle, but I also do incorporate a lot of other things like fasting. I am a big believer in the fasting as a way to heal the body. And, meditation and stress management have been really big for me. Our yoga teacher. And so I got trained to do meditation in a way that I never did it before, because we had to sit for an hour every day at like 7 in the morning or 6 a.m. It was really hard to sit and focus. But I learned from that how much it does for you. So that's a big piece, is managing stress. Yeah, so that's a lot. I just threw so much out there, a lot of information.
Well, that's great. I mean, so what did your doctor say when you were like, I don't need you anymore?
Well, believe it or not, I have not been back. So my doctors don't really understand what I'm doing, but I have gone in to get. I'm symptom free and I don't take medication, so I really don't need to go.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, you should go back and have another colonoscopy. And I could, to verify it, but I also don't believe in doing unnecessary medical procedures because they come with a huge amount of risk. You know, there's a term that I learned in grad school, which is iatrogenic illness or death, which means iatrogenic is what is caused by medical intervention. So there is big numbers in iatrogenic illness and death, meaning we have problems that we get from doing medical procedures and drugs and things like that. So I feel like, you know, I'm symptom free. I feel awesome. Why in there and do a risky procedure that if it's not warranted?
Yeah, I mean, and it's invasive and you can get an infection or who knows what. I mean, they're sticking something up your, you know,
Yeah,
where.
your
So,
rear and looking for problems that you don't even have symptoms for.
yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I am not in favor of doing those kind of tests. You know, blood tests, draw some blood, fine. But invasive tests like that are very risky. And if you're not having any symptoms, this is again why I go back to, you know, if you're having symptoms and you can't figure it out, okay. You know, I did get a diagnosis because I was also bleeding at the
Yeah.
time in 2012, but now I don't feel the need to go back. But people will argue, you're not cured. There is no cure for autoimmune. Well, I do believe there's a cure, and carnivore is a big piece of it, but also our mindset. You know, why should we believe that we're never going to get cured? And I just had that conversation with somebody on my YouTube channel that they're like, well, you're not cured. You're in remission. Well, how do you know? Well, you know, maybe you've been conditioned to believe that because this person also had colitis.
Well, like, what's the difference? I mean, in a way, it's like whatever you want to call it. If you're healed, then,
Yeah.
it's semantics. I mean, the only thing I worry about with people with Hashimoto's, is that they will not take their medication when they need it. And so I always feel like I don't want to stigmatize the medication for Hashimoto's because it's like, yeah, the goal is to get healthy, but like if your thyroid is damaged, then you have to have a replacement until you're healed enough that to where you don't need it. And hopefully, I mean, I haven't got there, but I hope I get there. But I'm not gonna not give my body the,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I take. And I take the most like pure form that you possibly can, without the fillers and everything. But everything else I don't take anything, because I
Well,
don't want.
yeah, I believe there is a time and a place for a lot of medications. I'm not opposed 100% to all drugs. I just think there's too many times that we rely on drugs to and instead of changing our diet. And the diet change does take time, especially for thyroid. You know, I had a dysfunctional thyroid and was on thyroid medication for a long time too. And then after about a year on carnivore, my blood test came back perfect without any thyroid medication. So I'm no longer on any of that. But that did take a long time. But we do have some miracle drugs in our world. I'm not opposed to some of them, but I just don't think we should be relying on them when there's another solution. Let me give you an example of this. So I just read an article yesterday on the drug metformin, which is used to keep blood sugar down so that your body doesn't make as much blood sugar, right? So interesting thing is researchers have found that it's also reducing risk for a bunch of other diseases like cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, that because they are keeping the body's blood sugar down and thus insulin down. Well, you could do the same thing with your diet. And we know, for example, that Alzheimer's is considered diabetes type 3 because the blood sugar is high. So sure, you could take metformin, or you could just take those carbs out of your diet. But I think that the drugs are pushed on us by the medical association, the Western medicine here. We rely on drugs, and those drug companies make a ton of money. The pharmaceutical industry does make some great things, but they also make things that aren't necessary that we pay a lot of money for. And some of these chronic diseases that are happening in the United States are costing us so much that they're really killing our economy. So like anxiety and depression, that's costing trillions of dollars to our system every year. Diabetes is like 200 billion. You can go through all of the chronic conditions, and the cost to us as Americans and our medical system are in the billions, and in some cases trillions. So
and you you work with corporations and try to help them with their wellness programs, right?
I do, yeah. So aside from being a health coach, my, I'll call it day job, is as a workforce health consultant. So I work with organizations to help, it's population health, and that's what I went to graduate school for. And basically the goal is to try to move populations, large numbers of people in organizations, to be high functioning. And because it does make a big difference on the business's costs. So they actually use wellness as a business strategy to improve their bottom line. When people are sick, they miss a lot of work. When they're overweight, they get sick. And so all of these things together, yes. So most of what I work on with organizations is actually, I don't ever teach about nutrition. As a health educator, I did that. But now what I do as a business consultant is I actually focus more on stress and overall well-being. Big piece of that is stress and emotional well-being, because it predicts, 90% of our diseases are caused by stress. So it's much easier to target. People know what to do. They know they need to eat better. They know they need to exercise. They just don't do it. So it's finding the reason. So I don't need to go teach people how to eat or teach them how to exercise or go for a walk. It's not that piece of the education they need. They just need figuring out how to do it and how to stick to it, because people lack that understanding and motivation and habits. In some cases it's accessibility, but for the most part it's just that they just don't do it. And it's not because they don't know that it's good for them or not. They just have a hard time making those habits.
Well, I feel like, sounds similar to you. I was so obsessed with my health, and I thought I was doing everything right, and I made myself so much sicker by doing what the magazine said or what the TV said. And so I wonder if people really do know what to do, because I basically killed myself with tofu. So
Right? Yeah, it's very confusing. And you bring up a good point about magazines and whatnot. So this is one of the issues I have with social media, which is really my only reason for being on social media, is I want to give an opposing message, because there's such heavy diet culture out there about, working out so intensely and being on a plant-based diet and cutting calories and eating protein shakes. And this is all wrong. Especially women with autoimmune disease, the worst thing that they can do is high intensity interval training. HIIT exercise for women with autoimmune? No, don't do that. You're only going to make yourself worse. And I learned that the hard way. And now I've learned it through the literature. It's just too clear now that the culture that's out there and being bred in social media still resides in pushing the body really hard, starving the body of nutrients. And this whole plant-based thing is a ploy for marketing. I see things like shampoo and conditioner that have the big sign on the bottle that it's plant-based. Well, who gives a crap if it's plant-based? You're putting it on your hair. It doesn't make any difference. It's a ploy. Yeah. It's plant-based is a marketing term.
It's just like greenwashing kind of.
Yeah, very much so. So I get really irked with that. One, because I've had such a personal, pretty intense health journey trying to recover from a plant-based diet. So on every post I put on Instagram, I have a hashtag that says "Say No to Plant-Based." And it's
Oh,
just little old me doing that. But hopefully someday that will catch fire somewhere, because I think plant-based is the absolute worst thing you can do for your body and for the environment.
absolutely. I mean, like they say, if you just ate one cow for a year and it's from a mile down the road, how much better is that for the environment?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And people don't realize that animals heal the soil. Animals, grass-fed animals heal the planet, and you know this, but most people don't believe. They just think that first of all, animals aren't the big culprit. If you really want to save the environment, sell your car, buy a bike, not going plant-based.
Don't take an airplane to Europe every summer or something. I don't know.
Right. There's so many more ways that we can be effective, and animal agriculture is not really one of them. But we can do a lot with animal culture to rebuild topsoil and to remove carbon. Actually, grass-based animals remove carbon, and they actually heal the planet. So absolutely, I want to support, small farms, whether they're close or far, wherever I can get to them. I buy whatever I can, and sure, it's more expensive, but we're worth it. Our body's worth it. So people can afford it if they stop spending on other needless things. And I'll tell you, eating almost entirely grass-fed animals, I still spend less than I did on a plant-based or a vegan diet,
Yeah.
because I need it so much, and I spent thousands of dollars on supplements trying to recover what I wasn't getting.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think
Ab-
it's much cheaper. Yeah, and minimalism, like you mentioned, I'm definitely a big fan of minimalism, and my life is very simple. What I buy, what I use, I don't make a bunch of trash. I literally get meat from the butcher wrapped up in paper and recycle it. And my dog eats the scraps, and she's thrilled. So,
I listened to your interview with Scott and on Carnivore Cast, and you said that don't add a lot of fat to your meals. Um, but that doesn't mean that you eat like chicken breasts, right?
oh, right. No. So I don't eat chicken breast ever. Occasionally I'll get it from the farm, or like my daughter likes rotisserie chickens from Whole Foods. I'll get her an organic rotisserie chicken. She loves it. Eats the skin, and we eat the wings and drumsticks and all that, and love that. But chicken breast, like I don't want to waste it, so I'll mix it with bacon and eggs and put fat in it. But yeah, I eat fish and occasionally chicken, but I'll try to put some fat with it. So I don't follow a low fat diet by any means. I just don't add extra. So I drink coffee. I don't put butter in my coffee. I don't feel like I need to do that. I personally like to stay kind of lean. I don't think it's necessarily anything that has to be that way for everybody else, because being leaner is to a degree healthier, but it's also a slippery slope when it comes to diet culture and eating disorders, body image disorders, and dysmorphia. So without going to that extent, but I personally like to be a little bit leaner. So I have found that by not adding a lot of excess fat, um, there's a fine line, because some amount of fat will help me to stay satiated all day, but some amount will make me feel a little sluggish. And so for me, that's that extra. So like I don't really put butter on my steak. I'll have bone marrow, but only on occasion. I mostly focus on fat that's already in the meat. So,
So
ribs, ribeyes.
what's a typical day of eating like for you?
I usually eat 2 meals a day. I usually have my first meal around noon. So I call it breakfast, but that's when I do break my fast. I usually fast somewhere between 16 and 20 hours a day, just whenever I'm hungry. Um, I think, that will fluctuate for me depending on what I ate the night before, and my appetite changes. So I used to kind of measure it out, and I had kind of, this regimen of eating a pound and a half a day or whatever. But since I've gotten more comfortable with it, I've also gotten more comfortable with listening to my body when I'm full. Like For example, last night I got these beautiful grass-fed ribeyes for like $40, and I couldn't even eat half of it, and I was just done. Months ago, a year ago, I might have just powered through it. But so I just change it daily. But typically, my first meal is around noon, and it's usually ground beef. I like sausage, so sometimes I'll do like chicken or even a pork sausage, bacon. I often have eggs because I really like them and they do okay for me. Couple eggs and some meat is typically my breakfast at noon. And then my second meal is usually somewhere between 5 and 6 p.m. I like to eat earlier, but I find that my glucose goes high at night. So I'm kind of in between on that one, somewhere usually before 6 p.m. I'll have dinner, and it's going to be usually a steak or ground beef. I do eat a lot of ground beef because it's cost effective, when
Me
you want
too.
to grass-fed. Yeah, grass-fed beef is not expensive. So I do eat about, I'd say half pound maybe. So it's either that or beef typically. Yeah. And on the outliers would be fish, some random chicken if I had it to use up. I think sardines are great. I think they're actually pretty darn healthy. So occasionally I'll do like a sardine and egg combination.
Oh, like scrambled kind of, or?
Yeah. But my food's really boring, and I actually promote that as our food is boring. It's not supposed to be this big party and super exciting. Occasionally, sure. But for the most part, my food is ugly and boring, so I don't put a bunch of pictures of it on Instagram. It is what it is. So that's a typical day for me. I do drink coffee. I love nitro brew in the morning. I'm kind of hooked on that right now. And if I feel like it, I'll throw some cream in there. But I did do a period of no coffee. I didn't really notice the difference. I did a period of no sweeteners, and I didn't really notice the difference. So if I feel like having a little monk fruit and cream in my coffee, I'll have it. But coffee, soda water, I use Gerolsteiner mineral water. I drink that a lot. It has a high bicarbonate, which is really good for you. So I do drink a lot of mineral water. And then the typical meats, occasionally lamb if I can get it. It's expensive. But those are my normal. On occasion, I do have keto ice cream. I love Rebel brand. Usually like a week before my period, I totally cave, and I'm okay with it. I don't worry about, I'm not a carnivore anymore. I don't really care. I listen to my body, and if I need it, I'll eat it. And then just go right back to my normal, and it doesn't seem to bother me. I won't eat sugar because sugar makes me feel horrible. Some people can go off the rails and eat things like chocolate. One of my friends, she loves chocolate. She's carnivore. She eats chocolate and meat and beer, and she does okay with it. If I ate that, I'd feel like trash. So I just don't. So if I cheat, it's going to be, something without sugar. I just can't tolerate it.
Yeah, I used to be so hooked on chocolate, but I haven't even thought about it in so long. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah, the cravings do kind of go away, especially if you're doing a lot of fat, which is great. Your cravings can go away. I mean, most of the point of doing this is regulating your blood glucose and your insulin levels. So if you're craving a lot of sweets, you might still be having, blood sugar dysregulation. With the only exception that I see is women around their period. So I think it's hormonal and probably something related to needing magnesium. That's my guess. But yeah, I'd say, the cravings do go away. I have always had a nasty sweet tooth. So if I really feel like I want something, I'll have it. But I usually do it.
That's a really minimally harmful thing is the Rebel. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of weird ingredients or anything. I mean, they just sent me like 12 containers of it, but I won't eat it. I gave it to my husband mostly but I mean, I want to save it. Like usually what I do is on my birthday or something like that, I'll have it. Or
there you go.
like if I go on a vacation, we went on a trip for a week and I had like one container of it, but it's like, okay, this is a special occasion thing and it's not
Yeah.
every week or something because
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, some people maybe can tolerate a little bit more. I mean, I go ahead, I probably do have one a month and I don't feel bad about it, but I do think the more you eat it, the more you'll want it. And lucky you to get the Rebel. I can't even find, I'm like so trying to find their other flavors because I'm kind of getting bored of the 4 that are available. So Rebel needs to send me some ice cream. I'm looking for that blackberry.
Well, just email, just write them email. They'll probably give you some. So I was gonna say, now how do you do with your, I think you said you have a boyfriend, so how do you deal with that and telling him, because it's so like anti-feminine, to see like, all I eat is meat, and there he's like, what?
Yeah, well, we started this journey kind of together because I was keto when we met. And then I immediately starting like right when we met, I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And he is incredibly supportive. He just knows my history and he's seen me get sick a couple times. And so he understands, same with my kids, that this is for healing. And so he's extremely supportive. And when we're together, he eats what I eat. He's amazing on the grill. So he grills steaks and all kinds of stuff all the time. He eats other things, but he can tolerate it. He's a tall, skinny guy, so he can eat all kinds of ice cream and he can eat junk food all day long and it doesn't bother him. But typically when we're together, it's meat and he loves it. It has helped him in a number of ways. He's seen improvements, but he's also not deterred by illness, meaning if I eat something non-carnivore, it's probably going to make me feel really bad. Whereas some people, they're relying on willpower and they don't have that negative reinforcement like I do and like a lot of people do. So that's him. He doesn't have that negative, backlash after eating something non-meat or sugary, whatever. But on the whole, he's super supportive and it's never a problem. We don't go out to eat a lot, but I think it's my choice, and probably his too, because it's kind of a waste of money and, yeah. I don't know. We can cook better at home.
I went yesterday for sushi and I got a sashimi thing and it was $18 and it was 3 ounces of fish. And I was like, but I knew that. So I had eaten a hamburger before I went because I knew like, I didn't spend more than that, So I was like,
yeah, pre-eating. You got to pre-eat when you go out.
Yeah. So just don't give you hardly anything, So now this is interesting. Some people, there's this idea that all plants are bad and in the carnivore. And so how do you think, how do you deal with like, and people have asked me, what if you're using essential oils, aren't all plants bad? And how do you put those two together?
Well, all plants are bad for me. That's what I say. For me, I've tried lots of different plants. Most of them cause me some problems. So for me, at this point in my journey, they are bad, but that's ingesting them. However, I can drink some tea. I do fine, even though there's oxalates in tea. I do completely fine with like green tea and drink iced green tea fairly often. I use a lot of plant-based skincare. So I'm going to use that word because it is on oils. They're made of oils that come from plants. And my skin has been great. I don't have any problems with it. I've tried tallow-based skincare and I like it. It's a little heavy, but I do fine with the oils. And I make a lot of them on my own. They're on my YouTube channel. In fact, a lot of the recipes that I use, I show people how to DIY their skincare to avoid toxins. And that's pretty much why I do it is, one, I do think they're really good topically. And it's the only way really to avoid a lot of toxic ingredients because there's thousands out there and they can really mess up your endocrine system, especially with regards to xenoestrogens, which affect both men and women. Men can have, erectile dysfunction from that, which I think is why we have such an epidemic of erectile dysfunction these days. But women also have pretty extreme hormone imbalance, which I think is also related to the xenoestrogens, not just from skincare, but from the foods, from the water. I think that we can avoid a lot of them, avoiding plastics, filtering your water with a Berkey. Like I have a Berkey, drink only water from that. There's a lot of things that we can do, and skincare is just a piece of it. So I think the plants on the outside for me have been great. And I also use some plants in a very extracted form. So I'll use tinctures of herbs that are used for adaptogens to help the body, be more resilient with stress. There's some things like that. Valerian root I've used as a tincture to help me sleep. So there's some plant-based medicine that I think are very valuable. You probably don't need them as much if you're on carnivore, but they are valuable. And then essential oils are a whole other thing, because yes, you can ingest them. Yes, you can put them on your skin, but you don't have to. So if, let's say, for example, you're dealing with stress and anxiety, which is something that contributes to our illnesses and autoimmune disease, like I mentioned earlier, 90%. So it's not just you sniff some oil and you feel better, but it can affect your limbic system and how your brain responds. Just the scent, because you have, in behind your nose, you have olfactory senses, and the scent of certain things will stimulate your brain and affect your hypothalamus. Your limbic system is affected just by scent alone. So for that reason, I use a ton of essential oils. I use it for relaxation. I use it for sleep. I use it for skincare, sore muscles. I think essential oils are amazing, and I still recommend them. But a salad, no.
I think also it's like you don't having to digest them. They're already like distilled down, and you don't have to break down the cover or something like that of the essential oil. It's just the pure, plant essence, and not the whole shell and all that other stuff.
Right, just the volatile oil. I mean, I think half the damage is from the fiber in plants, but we are exposed to, oxalates, lectins, tannins, these things that do damage our body. But none of those are present in essential oils. It's basically like triterpenes, volatile oils broken down into, a few different components, sesquiterpenes. There's some things in there, but I don't think they're damaging. Some can cross the blood-brain barrier. But in a way, I think that's a beneficial attribute. So yeah, I think the essential oils is an untapped area. And I will say that for about 6 months, I did complete abstinence from all plants, including plant medicine. So I did not, I'll say the only thing I had was coffee. I had meat and coffee for about 6 months. So I didn't use any kind of medicine and everything. I wanted to really be on a true elimination diet. And when I introduced the oils back in, they didn't cause me any problems. And when I introduced a vegetable back in, like a little bit of onion, I had ridiculous problems. I've tried a bite of this or that, and I immediately noticed.
Oh, really?
The oils I didn't have any kind of response to, and neither did I have a response to the plant medicines. So, or tea. So I think that's the beauty of a carnivore diet, is it's the optimal, elimination diet that will point out problems for you. As soon as you introduce back into your diet any one thing, you'll know right away whether or not it's a good choice for you.
Yeah, it's so clear because it's something new and it's easy to identify. So we kind of talked about that. We talked about a lot of the stuff I wanted to cover. And so, what do you see some of the mistakes people do on carnivore that you would, if you were their coach, you would tell them, hey, why don't you rethink that part?
Couple things, so I do a lot of coaching with autoimmune, and dairy seems to be a trigger for a lot of people with autoimmune. So a lot of people on carnivore are trying to eat things like pizza. And so they make all these things out of cheese. And so they're not quite getting the results that they want. So I see a lot of people that aren't wanting to give up cheese and dairy. But when they do see an improvement. Another thing I see is people gain weight on carnivore because they aren't understanding what full means on a carnivore diet. So on plant-based, because I remember being this, full is when you're stuffed and you're bloated and your belly is extended and distended because you're stuffed full of fiber, right? So there's a very different feeling when you eat carbohydrates and plant foods and anything else other than meat. Basically, there's a very different feeling of satiety. I don't actually think you ever get satiety from a plant-based diet. I think you actually just get full. But on carnivore, we don't have that. You have to eat so much to get to that feeling that if you do chase that, you're probably going to be overeating. So there's a different sensation that I think people need to understand. If you're gaining weight and gaining too much weight, and I have seen this happen, think about your satiety. And you want to get to the point where you feel like satisfied and not full. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see. And another thing that contributes to that is some people will be really crazy counting macros. So then their body will say, well, I've had enough. Like if I had counted my macros yesterday, I would be under eating according to my mind. And so I'd force myself to eat more. And I see a lot of people do that. They go, oh, well, I'm full, but I only ate, 1,000 calories today. Well, maybe today your body didn't need more than that. So kind of, listening to your body is better than calculating, looking at numbers. And that's what I think people do too much. Tracking is cool for a little while to give you some insight, but it shouldn't determine your day-to-day. And if I did that, I'd probably overeat too, because sometimes you don't need as much. We don't need as much. And the longer you're on carnivore diet or keto, you're going to need less. Your body becomes more efficient. So that's what causes a lot of these plateaus or, unfortunately weight gain, which is sad because then people give up the diet, especially women. They don't want to gain weight. So they go, oh, this isn't working for me. I'm done. And they quit. And it makes me really sad to see that because a lot of those people really do need to heal a lot of things, but they're not willing to gain weight. I understand that. I don't blame them, but they've just done it wrong. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's just that you can do it. And if you're gaining weight, there might be something wrong. And I know a lot of people would disagree with that and say, yeah, you're supposed to gain while you're healing. I don't agree. I think that you should maintain a healthy body weight. If you're underweight, then yeah, you might need to gain if you're healing. There are people that have Crohn's and other pretty serious illnesses that are underweight. And so in that case, yeah, you might need to put on a little bit. I gained 5 pounds max, and it fluctuates, but I wasn't necessarily underweight, but I was thin. And it didn't hurt me to gain a couple pounds, and I actually feel great. But that's probably the biggest thing that I see is people that are not listening to their body.
Yeah, I think that, I didn't gain weight and I ate a ton. So I don't see how anybody could gain weight. I eat less now than I did at first, but I still eat a lot. But for somebody with Hashimoto's to lose, I lost 10 pounds in the first month. So I'm like, I don't understand how anybody can gain, because I'm like the person who would gain. If you could gain, I would gain, so.
Right.
So I think that I think it must be the dairy or just, I don't know. And I also think they just shouldn't even weigh, because there's so many changes happening inside of your digestive system in your body that if you're sitting there weighing every day, you might even be going to the bathroom normally. There's so many things happening. It's like, just stay away from the scale because it's such a head trip.
Yeah.
And at least for like a month, just don't even weigh at all. Just focus on how your clothes fit and how you feel and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, a much better measure would be if you really need to measure something, poke your finger, measure your glucose or ketone, or, what your body temperature is, or how you slept last night. There's other things you can look at besides body weight.
Yeah, and or just take your measurements with a measuring tape around
Yeah,
your leg or
that'd be way better.
your because I mean, and you can have a lot of body changes that aren't. I mean, I haven't lost a ton of weight, but I feel like I've just been putting on my fall clothes from last year, and they're big, they're really big, and I'm like, I don't know if I can wear these or what.
Right. So
So
your body weight may not have changed, but your size probably is.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
um, so what, what do you, so just give somebody some encouragement, like if they're new to carnivore and, they're kind of like unsure or, maybe they're a little bit stuck, what would you tell them?
If you're coming into carnivore and you're new at it, there's probably some things that you're going to encounter, like a little bit of digestive upset. And so that can be changed a little bit by reducing the amount of fat. Your body might not be used to that much fat in the absence of fiber. So you can cut back a little bit on fats until your body adapts. People need salt. They tend to get tired, very fatigued, and they usually just need some salt. And I think, those are two of the more common things. The other thing is cravings. And like I mentioned before, unless you have backlash from not eating meat, it's probably going to be harder. A lot of people like to drink alcohol, and that's a major deterrent. You will not heal if you're drinking alcohol, especially the wine. And wine is one of the worst things because all of the sugar combined with all of the pesticides, it's terrible. So, and believe me, I live in Southern California. Everybody here drinks wine and lots of it. But I think it's terrible for your health. So if you're trying to do carnivore and drink alcohol, it's going to really slow you down on progress. So I would definitely consider that. And those are probably the main things. And I just say stick through it. If you're healing a disease, if you have an autoimmune disease, give it time. It does not happen overnight, and it doesn't happen in 30 days. I see people wanting to promote, like a 30-day challenge. Great. This is great. But it's not going to heal you, probably not going to heal you in 30 days if you've got serious damage. And most of us have serious damage, even if we don't have an autoimmune disease.
But most
So,
people have an autoimmune disease, they just don't know it.
do you know 50 million Americans have an autoimmune disease? And those are the ones that are diagnosed. So there's
Oh yeah.
probably a whole bunch more. I'd say, I bet you there's another 25 million that have some kind of undiagnosed
Or there,
autoimmune disease.
or there's people like us who don't even go to the doctor.
Right. And they're suffering with some problem, but they have no idea what it is. And also autoimmune disease now is labeled for a lot of things that we don't think of, like depression is considered an autoimmune disease. But people don't think of that. So
What
there's a lot
is?
of things that bleed into autoimmune that is not accounted for. So,
Yeah.
and they don't
Well,
even know there's more than 100 different known autoimmune diseases.
almost every single rash and everything like eczema, psoriasis, they're all autoimmune diseases. I mean, and my sister, she had it looked like nail fungus, and then now they're telling her it's an autoimmune thing, and it's like she's like, "What? I thought I had a nail fungus," And it's
Right.
like, no, it's more than that. So
Yeah, it's
it's
basically something of unknown origin, right? When they don't know what it is and can't really diagnose what it is and where it came from, it's autoimmune. And usually they don't know a cure for it.
yeah, it's and that's why I think your story is so inspiring because you just took the bull by the horns and said, "I'm gonna do this." You're gonna take your own advice and just listen to your body and just not let people boss you around and tell you that you're going to be on
Yeah.
expensive drugs for the rest of your life and just get sicker and sicker and sicker.
Yeah, not willing to take that for an answer. Nope. No, and I hope that other people will take the same initiative and, don't just take the advice. I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor, but also don't just listen and let someone tell you that you're doomed, because so much of it is related to our diet and how we operate every day. Yes, the diet is probably the biggest piece of it, But there's also, managing the stress and these other things that doctors are not equipped to teach you about. They're not equipped to teach you about diet. But they're also not equipped to talk about stress management and how that affects your gut, and how a damaged gut is pretty much the gateway to autoimmune. Nobody talks about that. They don't talk
Absolutely.
about how stress disrupts your blood glucose. Stress can cause diabetes.
Wow.
So
Nobody talks
nobody
about
talks
that.
about that. They just want to give you the drug. So there's so much work. And me as a health educator, and I've been in public health 17 years, and nobody is talking about this. And I work for a very large healthcare company that has 12 million members, and nobody talks about this.
And you're in the most progressive state, in
Yes.
America.
So, yeah, so this is why I'm so grateful that you asked me to come on today and talk about this, because any opportunity that I have to share this message, I want to take it and help people understand that they do have options. And yes, you can heal your body. Please don't believe that message that you can't.
Well, that's awesome, Nicole. And I know you're reaching so many and shining the light in the dark places. So we just appreciate you so much. And you guys make sure and follow Nicole at Healthy with Nicole on Instagram. And is there any other places you want to tell them about?
If they want to learn about some of this DIY stuff, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is also Healthy with Nicole. And links to all of this stuff is on my website, healthywithnicole.com.
Awesome. Well, make sure and share this video with a friend who might be suffering with their health, and share with anybody, and share on your social media. Make sure and like it, and do a thumbs up and ring the bell. And thanks so much for watching today, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.